Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Dear students, this is the first lecture of our class. My name is Qasim Shafiq and the topic of today's lecture is Introduction to Literary Studies. Students, before discussing the introduction to literary studies, the discussion on what is literature is necessary. Outlines are we are going to discuss what is literature, and then literature as the representation of life, and then the overview of some of the scholars like De Quincey and Aristotle. So students, popularly literature means anything that is printed in a book, but actually literature means that which is of universal interest to man. What applies to a local or professional or merely personal interest will not belong to literature. Charles Lamb went to the extreme of excluding the works of Gibbon, Hume and Flavius Josephus, together with directories and almanac. However, Harlem comprised jurisprudence, theology and medicine under the general head of literature. Students, both the points of view are wrong. Literature is composed of these books by reason of their subject matter, and style are of general human interest. The weekly sermons of Christianity, which have extensive influence on the popular mind, do not belong to literature, while Shakespeare's drama on Greek drama is literature because it fulfills the primary function of aesthetic satisfaction by reason of its subject matter and the manner of treatment. Literature, whether it imparts knowledge or not, is of lasting human significance because it continues to appeal to men for its subject matter of enduring interest and the attractive mode of treatment. So students, in judging the merit of a piece of literature, both matter and manner have to be taken into account. Students, fundamentally, literature is the representation of life through the medium of language. It is, however, not an exact replica of life. It is an interpretation of life as life shapes itself in the mind of the writer. Thus, the imagination of the writer is an important factor of presentation of life that literature offers an appeal to a particular class of readers, but literature yields aesthetic pleasure and appeals to people of all ages and climes. It lives by virtue of the life which it embodies and the way in which it is presented. Students, there is no real consensus or one all-embracing definition of the term literature. Most of the definition of literature are given by scholars according to their subjective experience and their context. Some scholars have defined it in broad sense as anything that is written. For example, Rees sees it in the narrow sense of writing which expresses and communicates thought, feelings, and attitudes towards life. The broad definition of literature appears to be vague and amorphous, in that it includes works that are not literature per se, like works in fields of education, biology, history, and a host of others by virtue of the fact that they are written. However, they cannot qualify as real literature. Students, you should keep in your mind that the narrow definition delineates literature from its general purview to what can be called literature as a subject of study. A perusal of some more definitions will provide a clearer light on the real nature of literature. Here we have the definition of Moody. According to him, literature springs from our inborn love of telling a story, of arranging words in pleasing patterns, of expressions in words, some special aspects of our human experience. However, Bolton defines literature from functional perspective as the imaginative work that gives us four R's. Number one, recreation, and second, recognition, and third, revelation, and fourth, redemption. However, Rees described literature as the permanent expression in works of some thoughts or feelings, in ideas about life and the world. This analysis reveals that certain things are common to all the definitions. They all recognize the fact that number one, literature is imaginative. Number two, literature expresses thoughts and feelings. Number three, literature deals with life experiences. Number four, literature uses words in a powerful, effective, yet captivating manner. Number five, literature promotes recreation and revelation of hidden facts. So, literature can thus be summed up as permanent expressions in words, specially arranged in pleasing, accepted patterns or forms, conveying thoughts, feelings, ideas, or other special aspects of human experiences. De Quincey distinguishes two types of literature. The distinction between the two types depends upon the difference of function which they fulfill. The literature of knowledge is meant for teaching, while the literature of power has the function of moving and inspiring the readers. The literature of knowledge appeals to the reasoning faculties, while the literature of power appeals to higher understanding through the emotions of pleasure and sympathy. Ultimately, it makes for wisdom, but it works through human passions. Literature of knowledge gives us information which is new, but literature of power But literature of power gives us the highest truth, which is eternal. Literature of knowledge has a provisional appeal, but the literature of power has a permanent interest. The Principia of Isaac Newton, which was revolutionary in the matter of giving information, had to give way to other books which appeared with newer knowledge and more fresh information. The appeal of this book was destroyed in course of time. On the contrary, the Iliad, King Lear, and Paradise Lost are eternal in their appeal. They remain unique and distinct. This uniqueness, this permanence of appeal is the first and foremost quality of a piece of literature. So literature deals with life as it is seen and experienced by the individual writers. It may be described as imaginative reconstruction of life. It is a form of art, and as such, imagination plays a vital part in the presentation of life in literature. It has been rightly said that the personal experience is the basis of all real literature. Aristotle hits the mark in his use of the word mimesis. He stresses the representation of universal patterns of human behavior and of an action embodying these. Moreover, an artist has to shape his plot or structure of emotions and events as the case may be. He is a creator, and his creative activity lies as much in his imaginative selection of life as in his rendering the same with the help of linguistic tools. Thus, the term literature is limited to imaginative literature, that is, poetry, drama, fiction, etc. It yields aesthetic pleasure by reason of its eternal appeal of subject matter and style. It treats of personal reading of life, but it is elevated to a work of universal interest by virtue of its mode of treatment. Its language is connotative and evocative rather than referential and demonstrative. It creates an atmosphere of mind through the use of metaphors, images, meter, alliteration, and patterns of sound. It takes the readers into an intimate and profound sense of things through various suggestions, nuances, and resonances. This explains why literature, like other forms of art, affects us profoundly. In lyric, drama, epic, and the novel, the reference is to a world of imagination and of fiction. The statements in a novel, in a poem, or in drama are not literally true. There is a central and important difference between a statement in a novel, even in a historical novel, and the statement in a book of history or sociology. Even in the subjective lyric, the I of the poet is a fictional, dramatic I. Dramatic I, time and space in a novel are not those of real life. The dramatist or the novelist create his own structure of events according to the law of probability. Apparently, in most realistic drama or novel, the very slice of life is constructed according to certain artistic conventions. Thus, literary artists observe certain conventions which impose an order, an organization on their works, and which life the works out of the matter of fact statements of the word of reality. And this is evident as much in the selection of life as in the organization of that life in the work. In these respects, Homer, Dante, Shakespeare, Keats are different from Emerson, Gibbon, Hume. Gibbon's Decline and Fall of the Romans on America have good style and general force of presentation, but they do not create a fictional world, nor they use imaginative qualities of suggestive language. Students, in short, their words do not provide the aesthetic satisfaction by taking the readers into a fictional world of joys and sorrows. So it is not working. Okay. In all forms of literature, there is an expression of the writer's own vision, his own sense of fact, his own intellectual and emotional reaction to men and things. History, economics, philosophy, science are all objective presentation in which the writer's own sense of fact is rigidly kept out. The writer's vision shapes the work of it. If deals literature, if deals with any subject trivial and drab, it cannot evoke the response of the readers. Again, if its treatment is commonplace and banal, it cannot attract the readers. The human value of a work of art depends upon the nature of its theme. A poem, however, well written on a trivial subject like a pair of scissors cannot be as interesting as one of the fall of man or on the ingratitude of human beings. Paradise Lost or King Lear cannot be written on the death of a lap dog. It is not always love thoughts that are important in a work of literature. It is the range and intensity of experiences that determine the place of the writer. King Lear is built on the common theme of the ingratitude of daughters. Othello is a drama of jealousy, but they become immortal creations because they fathom the depths of human experiences and carry out rich suggestions about eternal truths of life. So it is the harmonious combination of thoughts and style that gives rise to a good literature, to good literature. So students, Keats, one may call Keats, Keats is a good poet because Keats aims at complete satisfaction. Shakespeare is a greater dramatist than Shaw because Shakespeare gives the eternal variety of life. Hardy is a greater. He takes us to the depth, to the deeper depth of life. Greatness of an artist is determined by the richness and intensity of moments in life. A great work of art takes the readers to the very heart of truth. Okay, students, in coming classes, we may discuss the literary forms that uplift these literary works